Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear friends, brothers, sisters, viewers of Ikra TV. Welcome to another edition of Real Talk. I'm your host, Iqbal Bana. As I keep saying to you every week, I come into your homes, invading your privacy, but in the process, I hope, bringing to you issues and subjects of importance that may resonate with you, I hope, and it's something that affects people on a day-to-day life as well. As many of you may know, or should know, next Sunday is Remembrance Day. Now, Remembrance Day is a very, very important day in the history of this country. It is the day when every town, city, no matter how big or small it is, marks the event of the ending of the two world wars, or the Second World War. And on Sunday, you will see people gathering in London and other parts of the country, whether large or small towns, cities, villages, remembering the people who'd given their lives in the Second World War in particular, but also the two world wars. And these ceremonies will be taking place all over the country, as I say. So today I have three very eminent guests, one of whom I'm sure you would have watched last week, because he was here to talk about his experience of the armed services. And today I'm honoured to have with me Shamim Ahmed, who was in the Army, Royal Army, and I've got Mohammed Bhutta from Bradford, who is known as Harry, who was in the Royal Navy. So the three of them will be sharing their experiences, their thoughts, their ideas about the armed forces in this country. I mean, I'll ask them how long they've served for and where they were. But obviously, this is a subject that probably is something that many young people might be considering and wanting to learn more about. And also, there's issue about racism, anti-hate, Muslim hatred, or other forms of discrimination that affects all the services, whether it's the police or the fire service or the three armed forces. We know for a fact, that there has been a number of reports outlining some of the discrimination that has been taking place in all these institutions. And they're not unique. All institutions, whether they're local authorities or health service, are prone to some sort of discrimination. So welcome to you. Shamim Ahmed, thank you for coming. You were in the Army.
Thank you, sir.
Mohammed Bhutta, Harry, you were in the Royal Navy.
Assalamu alaikum.
And Nusrat Hussain, who was here last week, you were in the RAF.
Assalamu
Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining me. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalam.
I mean, Shamim, you've been here for the first time. Are you local from Bradford?
Yeah,
Right. So have you all lived all your life in Bradford?
since 1980, sir.
Oh, wow. Subhanallah. That's good. And you never moved out, even after you came back from your service?
Initially, when we came from Pakistan in 1974, we moved to Preston,
Right.
where I finished my secondary school, and then we moved back to Bradford
Oh, I
in
see.
1979, thereabouts.
All right.
Yeah.
And Mohammed Bhutta, Harry, as some people know you. Oh, well,
Most
you're well
people know
known,
him.
well known in
Even my
Bradford
mom started
circles.
to call me Harry as well.
Sure, why?
That's how-
I mean, okay, I'll come back to that. But, I mean, you're a well-known Bradford personality.
Thank you.
You can't be escaped. Nobody can escape him in Bradford, you see,
Oh,
even if you
dear.
tried. But yeah. So I mean, Mohammed, obviously you're from Pakistan as well. Your background's from Pakistan.
Absolutely. I came to Bradford in 1967
All right, very good.
as an 11-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And so went to school, learnt my ABC, do, re, mi, and 1, 2, 3, and ended up, when I was 17, I joined the Royal Navy. As soon as I left.
What made you join the Royal Navy? Do you want to go and see the world? Because that was the advert, wasn't it? Join the Navy and see the world.
And never
Yeah.
mind, ... But I think, learning English from the age of 11, I was nearly 12, but not even 11, I was nearly 12. Learning English from that age would have been very difficult. But when I was about 13, maybe 13 and a half, 14, I had another Pakistani lad from Karachi called Ray Hassan, and he's a Bradfordian as well. I think he was involved with lots of youth movements in Bradford. He told me about the Sea Cadets.
Mm-hmm.
That was on Bolton Road. It's another Gurdwara or something there. But I used to be our Sea Cadets back then, and he lived next door to the Sea Cadets. So from school he told me about the Sea Cadets,
Right.
and I took to the Sea Cadets like duck to water.
All right.
And I sort of propelled from there, language-wise, we used to go adventure training, we had our own boats on the Lady Liverpool Canal, did all sorts of things. There was a huge amount of activity that used to take place.
All right.
So there was never a boredom at home, never stay at home, be bored.
All right.
And you had the Sea Cadets to go to. That was my kind of outlook, basically.
Your entry into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I
then
mean, you're here resplendent with your jacket with all these medals. Can you explain to us what these medals are, please? I mean, obviously they're service medals, I suppose.
well, I hope so.
Yeah.
The badge on my pocket is my last ship HMS Brilliant, which I was on in the Falklands War in 1982.
Well, you're part in the Falklands
And
War.
so that is the senior kind of medal there.
Right.
You wear it on the right-hand side, and then they follow from that. So that's the Falklands Medal from '82, and some people might not like it, but that's the Gulf Medal from 1990-91 with
Right.
Saddam Hussein. And then after 15 years of long service, you get the Long Service Medal.
All right. Okay. We'll come back to the Gulf War. Nusrat, thank you for coming back. Welcome back. I mean, we heard your story last week about you had this desire to join the RAF, and you did all sorts of things to try and get in, and you finally managed to succeed. So I'll come back to you. I mean, obviously, the three of you served the British Empire or the British government and this country with honour. So your reflection was that you enjoyed it, and in your case, you felt that they had done some adjustments.
Of course.
In order to accommodate you. But I mean, I was just wondering whether the two of you, when you joined, I mean, you joined a long time ago, Shamim. I mean, how did you find the service? Because obviously, they were not geared up for halal food. They were not geared up for Muslim people to be part of the service. Did you find it challenging, or did you have to compromise on everything?
It was a shock.
Right.
It was a shock to the system.
Right. To your system or the
Well,
institution system?
Well, my system, and
Right.
also maybe the system that opened their arms to me when I joined up. I joined from the Army Careers Office in Bradford.
Oh, right.
I was just, at the time, in 1980s, jobs are very difficult to get.
Right.
And of course, I was an able-bodied person. I had basic education, secondary education. So I just happened to be walking past the Army Careers Office. I was with one of my cousins.
Right.
And I said, you know what, I think I should join the Army. It was a remark. And he says, well, I dare you. that made me walk into the Army Careers Office.
Right.
And I still remember, it was a Scots Guards sergeant sat behind the desk. He says, yes, young man. I said, I would like to join the Army. And I said, I would like to join the Army in a low voice. He goes, speak up. We won't hit you just yet. I said, we won't bite you just yet, he said.
Right.
I said, I would like to join the Army, sir. He said, come on, take a seat. Right? And there it started from there.
They didn't discourage you?
No. He,
Right.
you know what? That sergeant behind that desk, he actually encouraged me. I didn't realize I didn't have a British passport. I had a nationality, but I didn't have a British passport.
Right. Okay.
And then he did a research, he did some digging. He said, of course, young man, you got nationality, you can join the Army.
Right. Okay.
I did all my tests on the computer, and of course went for selection, and I joined in 1980.
Right.
I
And
joined.
how long did you serve for?
I served for 31 years and 11 months.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah,
It's
because
a very long time.
the regular service is 22 years,
Right.
but then again, after that, if you
An
achieve a
extension.
certain rank, you can go on to long service list. And that's what I actually did. I then came into recruiting world.
Right.
I actually recruited for the Army.
Right. So what rank did you finish in?
I finished as a W2, Warrant Officer Class 2.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you started recruiting people,
Yes.
were you recruiting people in the Bradford area?
Yeah, no, Northwest,
Right,
but
the whole of the
Bradford
Northwest.
and Exeter, yeah. But
Okay.
mainly, I started my recruiting career in Blackburn.
Right.
Then I moved on to in Burnley as an recruiting office manager. And then, of course, office manager job came available in Bradford. So I thought, you know what, it would be a good accolade to manage an office where I actually joined from.
Right.
So then I transferred
So you
into
came back.
Bradford, yeah.
All right. Okay. I mean, Mohammed, you obviously joined the Royal Navy, which is not normally a traditional sort of institution that a lot of young people. I can understand a lot of young people of the Asian subcontinent maybe wanting to join the RAF or wanting to join
Absolutely.
the Army.
Yeah.
But why? What made you, like you say, you used to join the Sea Cadet?
Well,
And then
it was love from the Sea Cadet. It made me fall in love with the Navy.
Right. So where did you serve? Where do you do your training and things like that?
I joined in '73. I was just turned 17, and my idea to join the Navy was to do 22 years, get my pension, and then go wherever I like, and I've got some pension coming behind me. That was the psychology, I think. But,
Oh, good God. Far-fetched thinking, very
It
very
was.
early on, a very
It
young
was,
age,
yes,
thinking
it
we're
was, and
quite far ahead.
So I went to my careers office in Leeds to do my entry exam, and what happened there was, I mean, it was very surprising. I told you I advanced so much in the cadets. It really helped me going to the cadets. I advanced so much. I went to the careers office for my entrance exam, and there was about 28, 29 English lads, and I was the only Asian. And I've been learning English for 4 years. And after the exam, I think I had the top marks.
All right.
So these guys were sort of saying, you know, join as an apprentice, but I wasn't that clever. I said, no, I want to be a mechanic. So I joined up as a mechanic. And we do our training in Plymouth,
right.
as new entries, a place called Tor Point. And we do our common training for 6 weeks there. And then we go into our specialisation schools. And I became an electronic technician.
All right. I mean, obviously, Nusrat last week told us about he had to go to Sheffield to try and get entry into the RAF.
Yeah.
And then, you know, through there he managed to do it. And obviously he rose through the ranks as well. But I mean, we know for a fact that, you know, as I say, there's a number of reports. And even the latest case that I mentioned earlier before we started, about the young lady who committed suicide, her mum's going around on all the news channels saying, I would not recommend any woman to join the army, unfortunately, in this particular case, because of the misogyny, the sexism. But in terms of racism, we know for a fact, and this is from the Armed Forces Ombudsman report, that the number of sort of complaints submitted by black and Asian people against the institutions is 39% compared to 20% from white people. Now, did you find overt racism? I'm not talking about covert racism, but overt racism while you were serving, when you joined. Shamim?
I can relate to an incident. I was serving in Belize.
Right.
And I was a private soldier at the time. And a certain individual, Lance Corporal, he was my boss, okay? And basically, every job going, it was Ahmed, do this, Ahmed, do that. And after a while, because you go there for 6 months, after about 3-4 weeks, one of my friends says, Sami, you know, he's giving you all the bad jobs because he's told us that because I am a Muslim, and he just happened, the Lance Corporal happened to be of a Jewish faith.
All right.
Okay, I didn't think deep into this. And then, of course, it came head to head. And he says, Ahmed, go do that. And I said, listen, Ward, my name, my rank is private. My name is Ahmed. So if you're going to address me Private Ahmed, not Ahmed in a derogatory way. It came to a head that our commander got involved.
Right.
And he pulled him to one side. He said, don't you dare do this. Private Ahmed plays cricket for the regiment. He plays for the garrison here. He's flying our regiment's flag. Don't do that. Even he was my sort of captain. And in our days, if you had a complaint, you went in and complaint is dealt with there and then.
Right.
I can't comment on the
other cases. Yeah, I know.
what you said.
Yeah,
I don't have the information on that. But the army always strives to deal discipline internally, and they try to sort it. Something's going wrong there, what you've said.
I'm glad to hear that. Obviously, you had a person who understood
the
implications of what the way you were being treated. I mean, this case, unfortunately, you know, as you know as well, that when she complained, you know, people sort of fobbed her off, and they laughed her off, and then to make it even worse, some of the other senior sort of officers sort of also became involved in trying to harass her.
No, I went through. I'm just going to have to pick up on this. I went throughout my naval career, racism at different levels, but even in 1976, 86, 87, I left the ship and I went on a course at HMS Collingwood in Fareham. I was there for 3 years, and that's where I experienced the worst of it. A lot worse, because we were in the classroom, it was in a classroom situation. You know, there's 20 of us in the classroom, and they had these cliques, you know, their own cliques, and there was my clique, just me, and nobody wanted me in their cliques, and you feel it. I went and reported it to my senior officer, my divisional officer, and nothing happened. Then my divisional officer changed to an American. He was an American officer on loan to the British Navy. I went to him and I complained to him. I said, I'm going through some serious racist problems. And he says, looked at me and went, you're a big lad, sort it yourself.
You're joking.
Oh, that's what he told me. So, the next story, what happened is he gets changed again, and I got this divisional officer who was black. And so I one day I was doing my exam, and this lad, I was my head down like this writing, and this lad, he made a KKK, you know, Ku Klux Klan figure out of graph paper, and he left it on the end of my desk.
Wow.
So I've been going to this guy, you know, this black guy, complaining about it, and he says, where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? Okay. So I lifted my head, and there's that KKK figure on my head. This is how it was, openly. So I finished my exam, and I did terribly in exams, and I knew these subjects inside out, but psychologically I was so bad.
You were traumatized.
I was traumatized,
Yeah, yeah.
really suffering, and nobody was there to help me. So I picked up this KKK figure, and I went to my divisional officer, black guy. His office, he's not there. So I left it on his desk. So you can imagine what happened. So he came back, saw this KKK figure on his desk, and he went bleating to his divisional officer.
Must have went ballistic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So a little later on, I came back to the office and I said, "Did you get that, sir?" And he went, "Was that for me? Was that for you?" I said, "Yes." And you can imagine, you know, he took notice then that something was wrong, but he didn't do anything. There was nothing he could do. Right? He was black himself. So I challenged authority. I challenged, throughout my career, I challenged people. And most often than not, it was just my drive that got me through. I wanted to tackle it myself. I think I got in touch with the CRE at the time. I think it was Commission for Racial Equality came up, and I phoned them. This is how bad it was. I phoned them to get some help. Right. They said, "Oh, we'll come over, we'll put you in the papers and do this and do that." So thank you very much for that. I think I've got a career ahead of me. I don't want to finish it here. So I, you know, gave them a boot, and just sort of try and tackle it myself. But one of the worst ones that, towards the end of the career, I passed all my exams for my next seniority, Chief Petty Officer. You just need to pass a verbal exam, and I passed all my exams. The divisional officer was racist. All I have to do is to go in front of the captain, and he shakes your hand and says, "Right, stand up, Chief." 3 times I got stood over. Every 3 months I had to go. 3 months.
So this is symptomatic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of the discrimination that people face, not just in the armed
so
services.
9 months of seniority I lost.
Yeah, not just in the armed services. I mean, like you said earlier, obviously it's throughout society we've seen this. I mean, Nusrat, you obviously went through the RAF, and you were a practicing Muslim because you went to madrasa, you studied Islam, you know, you went to this sort of Islamic universities basically, and you came out sort of much more, I'm not saying these two are not practicing Muslims, but you were much more committed to your faith, mashallah. How did you find it? Because, you know, I don't know whether halal food was easy for you at that time, or any of the food, because, you know, whether there was cooking in vegetable oil or not, do you have, do you have provision
many
for
choices,
prayers, etc.? How do you find it?
So for me, basically, it was different because coming from a business background and also representing my universities, my schools at sports, I was quite adept at being in different environments. And one thing I actually knew that if you kicked up a fuss without any reasoning or any rationale, you know, it wouldn't be taken seriously. What you have to do is sit at the table with the right people and explain it through dialogue and discussion. And that's my approach. So what I would actually do is, if an incident actually happened where people didn't know, I wouldn't actually sort of inflate it and exaggerate it in any way, because
But no, I mean that's understandable. But at the time when you were serving, as Harry just said, Muhammad just said, you know, there were people in the service, senior people, who would completely fob you off. So I mean, what you're saying, yeah, that is a tactic to use if you want to bring about change. But did you come across people who did to you what they did to Muhammad?
Thankfully, no. I was actually.
Also, I mean, because he found, you know, he found a captain, sort of the next in command,
Yes.
so completely fobbing him off.
I wouldn't want to say anything that hadn't actually happened.
Right.
There was just one incident where one of the other aircraftmen said, "Naz, when you're asleep, we're going to shave your beard," but he said it in a mocking way. However, I was actually concerned because obviously I had I wore my beard for religious purposes.
Mhm.
So I put the complaint up. It went all the way to the high command, to the group captain, and to the air commodore for recruitment. And this guy had to apologize. And they were after me, all around me, saying, "Do you want protection? Do you feel that this issue has been adequately addressed?" And you know, a lot of the time, because of my requirements for halal food and everything else, they weren't taken as a chore. I was actually, you know, given special, you know, dispensation for halal food. So they would actually order ration packs, especially for service. And if they'd once or twice they'd actually forgotten, and they were so apologetic. And because we actually serve with them, and these guys will actually tell you, you know, the people that you serve with, it's like a brotherhood, it's the camaraderie.
Oh, yes,
And
yeah.
everybody felt really bad that I didn't actually get my vegetarian packs.
Mhm.
And they wanted to hold to account whose mistake it was. And I just didn't want to go down that route. But for me, it wasn't all plain sailing, but it was a lot better, because I used to represent my station, represent my unit at sports, at football. And for that goes a long way, because not only are you actually working together, but you're actually representing your unit, your squadron in that way. And throughout the course of my life, until I came out, what's happened is I advised them about halal food. I told them about prayer space, and nobody said that, well, we can't do that. But they said, we'll look into that, and they put it to the right bodies for them to actually assess the situation and understand that there will be more Muslims or more people from other backgrounds coming in. And what do we actually do to prepare for them? Because Naz here is actually an experiment. He's the one that's trying to move this forward. But how do we actually address it for other people? Because this is what I said to them. I said, I don't mind having vegetarian and tuna sandwiches all the time and baked potato, but other people won't actually stick to that. They won't last
chicken
long
tikka
here.
masala.
Exactly,
Halal chicken
yes.
tikka masala as well. So yours was a much more better positive experience.
It was,
wasn't it?
yes,
But I mean, obviously, when you join any unit, you become a family, don't you?
of course.
You become a cohesive family, and it's a very tight-knit community, right? And we know, for example, in the police service, there's numerous report that says that the sergeant at the divisional level, you know, is the guy who sets the tone of any unit. And if you've got the wrong sergeant, you can be in trouble. Like
with your peers.
He sets the tone for discipline.
Yeah.
What should happen, and things should happen by the book. It's the same thing in the military, in mid-ranking.
Yeah.
And if I can just elaborate on with regards to the food and being a team, I was on my platoon sergeant's course, and there was no, at that time in 1982, just thereabout, they didn't have a halal menu.
I'm sure, yeah.
And the guys around me, so the ration that I was getting, there was meat mostly, and which I wouldn't eat because it wasn't halal. So they would give me their ration. We would swap rations. Said, Sami, don't worry, we'll look after you. We were in the field for 5 days,
Right.
and they were depriving us of sleep because they were just checking our mettle, you know, so they could promote you to a sergeant level. And you're right. In the army, you're a family. You look after each other. But the question is, you know, with regards to food, I think what Nusrat has said, then this happened later on, in late 90s. That's when they started bringing the halal, the kosher, and the vegetarian
Right, okay.
menus.
But as far as the Navy is concerned, you know, on shore bases and on board the ships, we have lots and lots of different
Yeah.
choices as well. It's not just one. You'll have so much vegetarian choices there to go
Right.
with. Right?
But
Yeah.
for me,
Yeah.
I was a meat eater, you know, and I enjoyed my chicken and my lamb. And when I was deprived of it, you know, for the first time I was there, I mean, the first few years up to 2005, I didn't actually see any halal ration packs. I'd heard of them, and still there was a lot of ignorance because already we were actually training, people from the Middle East, and there were halal ration packs, but it just hadn't filtered down to our level. So that's why I had to persevere with the, vegetarian food, and I was satisfied because for me, I would actually go out if I was local from an RAF station, unlike a naval base. We were still quite far away, and I would actually go get some fish to cook or something like that back in the evening.
Right.
But that sort of made it a bit better for me. And perhaps after your basic training and after your days away, you could actually come back after a few weeks and enjoy your food at home. So I think us guys have actually made the initial sacrifice, which people won't understand now, because everybody gets halal, everybody gets prayer space, everybody gets food during Ramadan, and if you're fasting, you don't have to eat at the same time as everybody else, and if you miss your food, that's it. You had to explain all these things as a Muslim whilst you were actually serving, and then perhaps not that year, but the next year, they would actually make the preparations for you to have your meal slightly later for iftar, or you could actually get up to eat during the night.
Right.
So
I mean,
those were the
obviously,
things.
that's happened in prisons and everywhere else as well. So that's understandable. Obviously, do you feel that the uniformed services, from what you've just said, are more open to looking at the needs of people from a different faiths, different communities, etc.?
From when I started to when I left,
Right.
it was a
Marked
totally
change,
different.
wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a
Marked
marked
change.
change. Yes,
Right.
because even when I served, for instance, with the army as well, I used to do a lot of events as Shamim did with going out recruiting because we were one of the very few people of ethnic minorities, and each service wanted to show that we have ethnic minorities and took us out. But there was a marked change because what happened was in those 10 years that I was there, from having vegetarian food, just saying my prayers, in my own time, and fasting without letting people know because, I had to let the, my unit commander know, but then I just carried on with it. But then they
So
realized...
you kept the fact that you're fasting away from your other colleagues.
Yes, because my immediate colleagues would know, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't make a really big fuss out of it
Right.
because they'd say, we're going on training now. I didn't want people thinking that I was using fasting or prayer as an excuse. Yes, because it would spoil it for the others, so I just carried on with it as it was. Because for me, fasting was just being without food, and when you're out in the fields, you lose a lot of weight, you're running around it anyway, and then, you can make up for it later on. It wasn't the way I used to think about it. If I persevere like this, other people who come after me as Pakistanis, as Muslims, they won't have it hard. Whereas, if I'd actually put up all the
I'm going to have to
excuses.
stop you. I'm sure you've enjoyed so far what we've discussed and nearly got carried away with that. If you want to call in, ask any questions about the people in the services, how they felt and what they see as a future, the phone number is on your screen, 01274 214 299. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Last week Harry rang in and shared his thoughts as well. So if you do, please, as I say, enjoy your chai, coffee, faluda, whatever it is. We're going for a short break. Inshallah, I'll be with you soon. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.